Hello, this is David Luking with GrassFlap. I'm here today to show you how to install a GrassFlap on an FW15. We've got the lawnmower here, along with the parts that we're going to need. I've got the tools set out and the parts from the box itself. Let's get started. Okay, the first thing we need to do is to remove the existing factory chute. The next thing we want to do is go ahead and get our hardware out here where we can see our parts and pieces, see what we've got. We'll set these U-bolts aside because they're going to go over with the handle. So what you're going to pull out is you're going to pull out the U-bolts and these 4 serrated nuts. Next thing we want to install is we want to put the flap itself on. So this is going to line up on the existing hole that we have on the deck. Set this in place. We're going to use the carriage bolts, 5/16 by 3/4, along with a couple of nuts to go on it, locking nuts. Get these started on. Once we have those started on, then what we want to do is set this flap down closed and make sure it's flush against the side of the mower deck. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our 1/2-inch driver. We're going to go ahead and drive these on. We just have to be a little bit careful as we do this that it doesn't move around on us. Get these a little tighter. Lock those down. Check and make sure everything closes okay. We look pretty good there. Next step, once we have the flap in place, we want to get the spring mount and the cable itself. And what we're going to do is we're going to start the cable into the mower deck itself. And so we're going to slide this, it goes in this opening, and it's going to actually come out on the other side over here. We're just going to pull it through and leave it lay for right now, okay? We want to go ahead and pull our rubber boot off, and the fixed clevis end is the one that's going to go onto the spring mount itself. So we want to go ahead and attach this to the spring mount. When we set this up, what we want to do is we want the mount itself to be about halfway. Okay, so the reason we hooked this up prior to, I'm going to go ahead and connect this up, and I'm going to go ahead and snug this up. Takes 2 1/2-inch wrenches. It's snugged up. And we want to go ahead and put this in because once we get it back up in here, it's tucked away in here, and we have a hard time getting to it to do any more work on it. So we're going to go ahead and position the spring mount in place. We're going to use the other 5/16 carriage bolt. We'll go ahead and get it snugged up here. When we set this in position, we're going to kind of run it up against the bottom of the spring over here, and takes a 1/2-inch wrench. We're going to go ahead and tighten that up. Up. There'll be another flange nut in the kit there that you want to put on this back end, on the pivot end of this, and run it on. Okay, when we tighten this one up, we're going to need to hold the nut and bolt on both sides. Make sure that the flap is still easily pivots, and we can go ahead and connect the spring mount. I found the easiest way to do this, a pair of channel locks or a pair of pliers. Grab the spring on the open end, so we've got the open end of the spring here, and then in most cases you can pull it on out here and attach it. Okay, so the thing we've got left to do on this hinge plate end is to connect the cable, but we're not going to do that until we're done installing up on the handle. Get our hardware back out. So we've got this bag. The U-bolts are going to come with a regular 1/4 inch nut on them. We want to remove that because it's not locking, so we're going to swap these out. And we're just going to set these aside because we don't need them. All right. So U-bolt, the lower U-bolt, we're going to go ahead and insert in here. These on down until they're a little bit snug. Put the upper one in. We're going to go ahead and tighten these up. We want to slide it up a little bit so it's kind of centered between this and the hand grip here. I'm going to hold it so that it's basically straight. As you tighten these up, you kind of want to make sure that the threads are about the same on both the top and the bottom. Also want to make sure that the handle is in an upright or vertical position here. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to connect the cable. So the first thing we're going to do is pull this rubber boot off. We're going to take jam nut number 2, we're going to run it all the way on, and we're going to spin jam nut number 1 off. Once that's done, then we can slip the cable into the slot. We'll start jam nut number 1 back on. We're just going to run it on far enough that we can get the rubber boot back in place. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to connect the cable to the lever itself. So we'll slip the removable clevis on with the slot on the outside. We'll go ahead and use our pin and push the handle to get us in position. Now we're going to go ahead and slip the cotter pin in. Get the cotter pin in place, and we're going to bend these tabs over so they're all the way doubled over so it doesn't come out. Now that we have the handle on, we want to adjust it so that the hand lever is as far forward as it will go. So in order to do that, we've got the flap in the closed position. We've got these 2 jam nuts loose. Now we're going to take and pull the cable forward until it contacts the front of the opening. We'll run these 2 jam nuts together. Now that they're in place, we'll go ahead and snug these down. These don't have to be super tight. Now, the last thing that we have to do on this end is we have to attach the cable. So we're just going to use a zip tie and tie it down here on the handle. Find a convenient location for it to go. Okay, the next step we have to do is we want to go ahead and connect up our cable on the flap end. So we've got this small 1/4 inch bushing that we're going to fit into this hole. We're going to use our 3/16 pin. So get ourselves a little slack where we can get in here and put it in place. When you install this pin, you want to make sure the head of the pin is on the same side as the spring, so that when it opens and closes, it passes. Then once you have that done, you're going to take your cotter pin, put it in place. And typically when I put this in, I go about halfway up, and then you can bend it open. So here we go. We've got the flap in place. All looks good. Okay, we've got the GrassFlap installed. We've installed the flap down here. We've got the handle connected up here. We've made sure that all the cable connections are tight and zip tied the cable in place. So from an operation standpoint, pretty straightforward. You're simply going to pull it back, and it's one smooth motion, back, release. If you pull it all the way back, you're just going to go halfway and get stuck. So we can pull and release, pull and release. And we also have some built-in stops here where you can pull the handle and partially open or partially close the flap itself. Any of those available. If you need to, you can make some adjustments to the jam nuts on this end to change the position of these stops. Easy enough to do, and that's it. Hope the installation goes smooth for you. If you have any questions, by all means, give us a call.